I remember it was 3 years ago that I discovered that the Earth was not a spinning ball of water, but in fact it was a plane, as in a flat surface. I felt an excitement like a child on Christmas Day, and I created a series of videos claiming that I had 100% proof that the Earth was flat. I even offered $1,000 to anyone that could debunk me. Looking back now at my presentation done in Microsoft Word, and me trying to convince people was silly of me. But I had fun and I learned a lot. I learned that people don't care what the shape of the Earth is. They don't care that they're being lied to. This wasn't a response I expected. I didn't expect apathy, ridicule, and hate. After all, some people are gay, some people are straight, some people believe in intelligent design, others believe in evolution. But for some odd reason, everyone is supposed to believe that we're on a spinning globe. And speaking about a flat Earth always seems to strike a nerve in many people. The four most popular responses people gave me was, "You're an idiot, go back to school," "How does it affect my life?" "Why would they lie?" and "What do they have to gain?" Never mind the proof that I was giving them that the Earth was flat. That wasn't important. They wanted to know why. As if governments of the world don't lie to the people all the time for oil, money, control, and greed. So recently, the internet has been buzzing about the flat Earth theory. Celebrities like B.O.B. and Tila Tequila have been spreading the news that the Earth is flat, while YouTubers like Vegan Gains, Pharaoh Law, and Vsauce have all made pathetic attempts on trying to mock and disprove the flat Earth theory. Even politicians and the United States president is talking about the flat Earth theory. Let's quickly listen to what they have to say.
My friends, these people are so out of touch with science that they believe rising sea levels don't matter because in their view the extra water is just going to spill out over the sides of a flat Earth. They're wrong, obviously.
And we need to make clear that those members of the Flat Earth Society are on the wrong side of history. We are going to make Paris the demarcation point where we begin to get the job done to save the planet, period.
They must have been founding members of the Flat Earth Society. They would not have believed that the world was round. I want to be clear. I am willing to work with anybody. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, Greens, anybody to combat this threat on behalf of our kids. I'm open to all sorts of new ideas, maybe better ideas, to make sure that we deal with climate change in a way that promotes jobs and growth. Nobody has a monopoly on what is a very hard problem, but I don't have much patience for anyone who denies that this challenge is real. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
You see, when public figures begin mocking certain ideas, that's when you have to begin looking into that idea, because most likely there is some truth in it. So with this hype about the flat Earth, my subscribers urged me to get back into the flat Earth arena. They even sponsored this video. This time I'm going to do things a little bit different. Let's start off by answering 3 of these questions. How does it affect your life? What do they have to gain? And why would they lie? Well, as far as how does it affect your life, this will only affect your life if you are an explorer and an open-minded truth seeker. This information will be of no use to you if you are a homebody and a closed-minded, willfully ignorant person. The Flat Earth movement is basically saying that there is more unexplored land beyond the South Pole, and the governments are prohibiting people from exploring past this restricted area. How do I know there is more land? Because in 1928, Admiral Byrd and the US Navy did an expedition and discovered that land extended at least 5,000 miles beyond the original southern end. And after follow-up expeditions, they discovered that this land continued and had no endpoint in sight. Most likely they didn't have enough resources or fuel to continue flying thousands of miles past the South Pole just to see if there is an endpoint. Be that as it may, overall, this was a frightening discovery that needed to be hidden. They couldn't have the masses learning about land beyond the ends of the earth. What happened next was 53 nations came together and signed the Antarctic Treaty, which stated no one can explore the South Pole without permission. and the region will be a scientific preserve used only for scientific and peaceful purposes. Which now brings me to, why would they lie? They are lying because they have something to hide. Some people say they're hiding the creator. I think possibly people exploring beyond the South Pole will discover the ends of the earth, kind of like the movie The 13th Floor, The Truman Show, or Dark City. Possibly they're advanced civilizations beyond the South Pole, perhaps even ancient civilizations that we think went extinct simply migrated to these lands beyond the Antarctic. So now that leaves us the last question. What do they have to gain? And the simple answer is the complete control over the minds of the people and where they can travel. You can't just jump up and say, I'm going to the South Pole, to this unexplored land that Admiral Byrd was talking about in 1928. You need permission to explore. Trespassing will get you arrested or killed. The governments of the world have decided no more exploring, stay within your jurisdiction, ask no questions, and be a good little boy and girl. The earth is a ball, just like we taught you in school and on the TV. Anyone that tells you that the earth is flat is retarded. You know, Richard Nixon once said, the American people don't believe anything until they see it on the television. There's also a saying that there are three things that cannot be long hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. What I find interesting is that religious people like Christians have told me that they believe the earth is a spinning ball. But in their holy book it says the earth has foundations. It says the earth cannot be moved. It says the earth is a stationary circle. So Christians, I'm just wondering, do you guys believe in the Bible or NASA? Now here we have a 1,000-year-old map of the world which originated from a Japanese Buddhist temple. What I find interesting is not only does it resemble the flat earth map, but it has 33 continents outside of the Antarctic ice ring. Is it a coincidence that this looks similar to the 1781 map of the world? The 1892 Gleason Standard Map of the world? The Azimuthal Equidistant Map? The logos for the UN? The IMO? The WMO? The WHO? Is it just me, or is there anyone else seeing a pattern here? Well, at the end of the day, I'm not here to convince anyone when in 1988 NASA has admitted that the Earth is flat. So now let's talk about why they said the Earth is flat. There's a couple bullet points I want to discuss. The first being NASA has proof, illusions and fantasies, impossible on a globe, the Bible says, and lastly, my final thoughts. I think the best place to start when talking about the flat Earth is NASA. We need to put NASA's credibility under the microscope. We need to first analyze and destroy NASA as an authority figure and as a reputable source of information or rebuttals. NASA, with the help of Hollywood and secret societies, are the puppeteers behind this grand illusion of the blue marble. NASA has become the frontman and the serpent of deception for the masses. I think of 5 acronyms when I hear of NASA: never a satellite around, never admit strange anomalies, nincompoops always selling alibis, not always scientifically accurate, and never a straight answer. What if I told you that NASA has slipped up and admitted to not only the Earth being flat, but that they've never been to the moon? Let's first look at this clip of NASA admitting they have never been to the moon.
Spacecraft that's going to take humans to explore the solar system. It's the next big step for NASA.
Called the Orion Multipurpose Crew Vehicle, or MPCV, this next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit. This next-generation spacecraft will enable America to explore beyond low Earth orbit.
We get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. But Orion has protection. Shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Plan that NASA has is to build a rocket called SLS, which is a heavy lift rocket. It's something that is much bigger than what we have today, and it will be able to launch the Orion capsule with humans on board, as well as landers or other components to destinations beyond Earth orbit. Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go, and this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually. And hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, there's a lot of destinations that we could go to.
And unlike the previous program, we are setting a course with specific and achievable milestones. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit. Early in the next decade, a set of crewed flights will test and prove the systems required for exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Well, surprise, surprise, no moon landings. Now let's segue and read NASA admitting that the Earth is flat. In a 1988 publication called Derivation and Definition of a Linear Aircraft Model, on page 7, they state, this report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. They continue by stating, this report details the development of the linear model of a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. You know, I know this hurts for some people to hear their Lord and Savior NASA admitting defeat, to admit the Earth is flat. And I encourage people to verify this documentation, but something tells me that I'm still going to see NASA advocates in the comment section saying, I misinterpreted what they said, or I photoshopped the document. But no worries, because a link to the PDF will be in the description box below for you to see for yourself. Now, for those people that believe that NASA is comprised of the smartest people on the planet and think that people that say the Earth is flat and not rotating are stupid, well, what do you have to say now? Admittingly, this may be an emotional time for some people discovering this information. Some of you may be crying, confused, apathetic, or angry in an attempt to troll this video. But I highly discourage leaving silly, ignorant comments below, as none will be left uncontested. And I hope you do watch this video to the end, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. But I simply want to emphasize these two pieces of information because it's coming from the dragon's mouth, straight from the heliocentric religious organization that most people will defend to the death and use as a credible source to defend their round earth theory. Let's look at this video and photographic evidence that people love to show. On July the 16th, 2015, we had a Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite picture of Earth from space, and we can see the word sex upside down. The image you're looking at is flipped 180 degrees, and the word sex in the cloud formation can be seen in the northeast portion of the globe. I know some people will argue and say that seeing sex in the clouds means nothing because they can see faces, animals, and words in the sky all the time. However, Matthew Boland, a former NASA operational graphics manager who worked with NASA for years creating photorealistic computer graphics, states that all photographs from the Hubble telescope are NASA hoaxes. Consider the fact that NASA has admitted that their images are composites made up of 3 layers of pictures from the alleged satellite digital cameras. My question is, why is it necessary to make a composite image at all? Why not just take one picture of the Earth and be done? The obvious answer is because there are no satellites and the Earth is not a globe. The images we see are simply beautiful works of art. NASA knows that these layers of images would likely be discovered in the future, so they decided to admit that they are layered images. The heliocentric model. Our authority figures have told us every 6 months the Earth will be 180 degrees in its orbit around the Sun and be opposite the Sun from where it was 6 months earlier. However, there is a problem with this model. Let's say we begin our observation of the Sun 12 noon in New York on September the 22nd. According to the heliocentric model, every 24-hour day the Earth is supposed to do an exact 360-degree spin on its axis and end up at the same place. That means that after 6 months, 12 noon in New York will arrive during the middle of the night on March the 21st. Under the heliocentric model, this occurrence should happen year in, year out, every year. However, this doesn't happen, which means the heliocentric model is wrong. Polaris also proves the heliocentric model is pure fantasy. Polaris is the North Star and is allegedly fixed above the North Pole of the Earth. However, the problem is the North Star can be seen below the equator. Scientists want us to believe that the North Star is kept perfectly synchronized with the orbit of the Earth around the Sun, while the Sun is supposedly traveling at speeds approximately 500 miles per hour around the Milky Way galaxy. Even more fantastic is the fact that scientists hypothesize that this Milky Way galaxy is racing through space at the speed ranging from 300,000 miles per hour to 1,340,000 miles per hour. The North Star not only proves that the Earth is flat, but that the heliocentric model is wrong. The midnight sun also disproves heliocentrism. Places with the midnight sun are areas with 24-hour daylight. Now here we have a 360-degree panoramic time-lapse photograph which shows the path of the sun over the island of Lopa in the northern part of Norway between 7 p.m. July 21st and 6 p.m. July 22nd. This picture illustrates that in midsummer north of the Arctic, the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours of the day. The photograph shows the sun as it makes a complete circle over the head of the photographer as he took one picture each hour during a 24-hour period. The photographer has inadvertently proved the sun circles over a flat Earth. How so? Simple. The only way the sun would be seen to circle the observer on a globular spinning Earth would be if the observer was standing directly over the North Pole. Any distance south of the North Pole should create a zigzag back and forth sun pattern in the sky if the Earth were truly spinning and orbiting a 93 million mile distant sun. Now of course, some people are skeptical about this information, so they will Google midnight sun and it will say, the midnight sun is a natural phenomena that occurs in the summer months in places north of the Arctic Circle or south of the Antarctic Circle when the sun remains visible at the local midnight. And then y'all will come back and try to argue that people can see the sun in the Arctic and Antarctic region because the Earth is on a tilt. And to some people, that rebuttal may seem like a good answer, but it's not good enough. The first problem is we are not on a ball, but for argument's sake, let's say we are. How exactly do you prove that this ball is tilting on an axis? How do you explain that the photographer can see the sun do a full circle and not be at the North Pole? How do you explain an Earth that has a 24-hour day cycle and is supposed to do a 360-degree spin on its axis, yet somehow miraculously we have allegedly 6 months and 6 nights in the Arctic and Antarctic region? We know in North Cape, the northernmost point in Europe, has 76 days of full midnight sun. Fairbanks, Alaska, which is also below the Arctic Circle by almost 200 miles, still receives 24 hours of light for long periods in summer. Svalbard, Norway, the northernmost inhabited region of Europe, has no sunset from approximately the 19th of April to the 23rd of August. In Reykjavik, there is a midnight sun from the 16th and the 29th of June. In Canada, there is sunlight 24/7 for 56 consecutive days. How in the world can any place get 50 to 70 plus days of sunlight on a spinning ball that's on a tilt? The only way this can happen is if the Earth is flat. Let's talk about gravity. But first, I have a question. How many equations are there for gravity? Is it 1 or 2? If you guessed 1 or 2, you would be incorrect, because there are many equations for gravity. And it just goes to show you that anyone can fudge together numbers to validate their beliefs. Some people will say that gravity is not a theory, it is a law. My question is, who said it's a law and has this law ever been broken? What if I told you that this so-called law of gravity has and still can be broken? Let's look at some people that broke the law of gravity. Saint Joseph of Cupertino was one of the saints best known for levitating during prayer. Then we have Saint Gerard Majella, who was known for flying in the air. On one occasion, according to witnesses, he flew for half a mile before coming back to the earth. Benedict Joseph Libre, a Frenchman and Catholic, was known for his levitations. Saint Angela of Brescia, who founded the Order of the Ursuline Nun, was in 1592 seen multiple times levitating during holy services by the entire congregation of the church and remained suspended for long periods. Saint Alphonsus Liguori, an Italian Catholic bishop and the founder of the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, while preaching was seen multiple times levitating before the eyes of the entire congregation several feet from the ground. There's been so many people that have experienced levitation. It's sad that I can only find the names of Europeans that levitated. One can only imagine all the Indians, Asians, and Africans that have levitated through history. So again, do scientists really understand gravity? How do they explain the documented proof of people levitating? How is it possible that gravity can hold in the massive amount of waters in the ocean, but lighter objects can escape the Earth's gravity, like a bird or balloon? A person can leap almost half his height, all the while, according to scientists, we have an atmospheric pressure of 14.7 pounds per square inch acting on the body. Later in this video, I'll be playing a clip from NASA claiming that so-called planets that are gas giants have gravity. The theory that gravity is pulling everything inwards on a spinning ball of water is pure fantasy. Not only will you have to scramble for an explanation about flying saints, but I'm going to add in the flying humanoids in Mexico. Thousands of people have been seeing beings flying in the air. Even a police officer was attacked by one of these humanoids. Let's also throw in the mystery of the Santa Cruz mystery spot, where water flows upwards and cars and balls roll uphill. These magnetic hills scientists claim to be an optical illusion. The late astronomer Royal Sir George B. Airy once said, "On a whole, we must express our opinion that the general cause of the Earth's magnetism still remains one of the mysteries of cosmical physics." Now, some people are going to get upset and call me crazy for my following arguments, but before you do, please get yourself a telescope and look at the planets yourself and tell me, what do you see? Because I've looked at the so-called planets and I have read books and I've done some research and I've come to the conclusion that these planets are not balls spinning in space. These planets are luminous bodies, nothing more, nothing less. NASA has even admitted that Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are gas giants, which would mean they are not solid, and as a result, they cannot be spinning balls in space. NASA believes people are stupid, and to some extent they are correct, and they will continue to tell people that these bodies of gas has gravity, and they will be landing probes on these bodies of gas. Let's look at some of these so-called planets. Here is a picture of how NASA shows Venus. Now here is how Venus actually looks. Here is how NASA shows Jupiter. And here is a close-up of how Jupiter actually looks. Here we have a NASA image of Saturn. And here is a close-up of how Saturn actually looks. NASA again with their depiction of Uranus. And here is a close-up of how Uranus actually looks. Now let's keep in mind that similar to what they have done to make it standard for most cameras, to have a fisheye lens so people can see a curvature in their video and pictures, is exactly what they have done to these telescopes. Most, if not all, digital telescopes are pre-programmed with software to give the viewer an image of the planet they want you to see. I've come to the conclusion that NASA is trolling the masses. They claim that there is no sound in space, but then they claim they have recorded the sound from planets. One moment they will say that Pluto is a planet, and then they will come back and say, we change our mind, Pluto is no longer a planet. I'm going to play some clips of NASA talking about planets, but I'm not going to be giving any commentary because I don't think I can help myself from laughing hysterically. but I'll be adding some annotations and leaving it up to you guys to decide if NASA is telling the truth about so-called planets.
And NASA has announced that the administration's Kepler Space Telescope has discovered the single largest collection of planets outside of our solar system. The Kepler mission verified over 1,200 new planets nearing human beings towards an answer on whether or not we're alone in the universe.
It's been over a decade since a spacecraft has orbited Jupiter. But our solar system's largest planet is finally getting a visitor. After traveling 1.8 billion miles over 5 years, NASA's Juno spacecraft has reached its destination. The goal of the $1.1 billion mission? To better understand the formation and evolution of Jupiter, to discover whether the solar system's oldest planet has a solid core, and how it produces its gigantic magnetic field.
Astronomers using the Hubble telescope have found a deep blue planet 63 light years away. Unlike Earth, the blue color does not come from oceans. Instead, NASA says the planet is a gas giant with a daytime temperature of 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And get this, it may rain liquid gas sideways amid winds of 4,500 miles an hour.
Roscosmos, the Russian space agency, laying out their plan for the next 18 years. That'll take us up to the year 2030. Now, we're going to see an unmanned network of research facilities on the surface of Mars. Now, they will be there to gather as much information as they can and send it back here to Earth, hopefully being one of the first steps towards mankind being able to set up a base on Mars. Now, we saw Russia leading the way in Martian exploration with the Mars 500 project. They said that was a step towards the first step. Perhaps this establishment of a network of facilities on the surface really is that true next step to being able to explore the red planet. Now, there'll also be missions to Venus and to Jupiter, and we're hearing that we could see a manned mission to the moon. So all of this by the year 2030 is certainly very ambitious, but certainly very exciting projects.
So what are some things that are impossible on a globe? In 1915, we had a radio signal from Arlington, Virginia to Hawaii and Paris. What about the mariner's compass? The needle of this instrument is pointing north and south at the same time. Consequently, the meridians must be straight lines also, whereas on a globe, they are semicircles. What about rivers that flow uphill, like the Nile and Mississippi River? What about sundials, which I dare anyone to put a sundial on a globe and see if they get the appropriate shadows. I guarantee without a doubt you will not get the appropriate shadows. Only on a flat earth can a sundial work. Let's look at this video clip. We also have to look at the visibility of distant objects, which is impossible on a globe. For example, the Chicago skyline can be seen clearly. Here's a picture taken by Joshua Nowicki as he stood at Grandmere Park, Michigan, which is approximately 57 miles across from Lake Michigan. We have other places such as St. Botolph's Parish Church in Boston, which is 290 feet tall and visible for 40 miles, but it should be hidden under 800 feet curvature. The Cape of Lagula of South Africa is 238 feet high and visible for 50 miles, where it should be below 1,400 feet of curvature if the Earth was really a ball. If the Earth was truly a globe, we would see curved clouds at the horizon. We would see the bottoms of planes coming up from the horizon. Water would also have to show some curvature, but the reality is we see no convexity, only a perfectly leveled water. There are over 200 proofs that the Earth is flat, and unfortunately, I won't be going over each one. But I want to close this section with an interview of a missile expert admitting the Earth is flat and missiles do not account for any curvature.
Our fire control radar, we actually use a 2-degree pencil beam. It's a very, very tight beam, so there's very little room for deviation on that, and it's a direct line of sight radar.
Okay.
And we're able to track targets up to 50 nautical miles away, and on a curved Earth, that just doesn't add up.
Followed the Chicago skyline.
I have 60 miles away across Lake Michigan. Yep, they can see the whole city.
There you go. So this is collaborating that, which he's saying he can track targets at 50 miles away, which should be about 1,700 if you round up, 1,700 feet below the horizon. But you're hitting them just fine.
Wow. We're tracking them just fine, and it just doesn't add up. You know, you can do simple trigonometry on it with elevation angle, and you know everything works out, and you don't drop the track. You can track it quite a bit of a distance out.
We're talking about line of sight targeting or GPS for the projectile, for the missile.
For the missile, it's line of sight targeting. That basically, like I said earlier, we track the target with a illuminator, and it's basically just another piece of gear that's tied in ours. And once we lock up on the target, we're line of sight pointing straight at it because it's a 2-degree pencil beam. It has to be pointing straight at it, because if it's not going to see it. It's not a search radar. It's a fire control radar. If you're supposedly looking at something, 50 nautical miles away around a huge curve, it's just you can't punch through the ocean with RF.
But the point is that the 2-inch beam, you have to have it on there for most of the trip. That thing's
Not
out
most,
there.
all of it, pretty much.
Okay, all the trip except for the last couple seconds, if that. You can pull it off if you had to.
If you absolutely had to, but you have to understand, if it's not close enough, if you pull it off, the missile will go ballistic on its last update, and it might not hit the target.
Got it. And so if what you're basically saying is this 2-inch beam, what you're painting the target with, is you guys, when you're firing this thing out there, you do not account for curvature. That beam shouldn't be able to reach a target at a certain at whatever the at 50 miles should not be able to hit that target.
Yeah, and this is a perfect thing, and I'm really glad that I was fortunate enough to work on this, because the argument always is, well, we can reach over a curve because we're a search radar and we use atmospherics and bounce off different parts of the atmosphere, and then it comes back down. Now, see, the problem with that is this can't happen with a 2-degree pencil beam. The angle of this cannot put RF up into an atmosphere and then bounce it back down and then expect to get it back so we can properly track.
It's too
precise.
Yeah.
It's too precise. It can't do that.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, for those people that are religious, I'm assuming that you've read the Bible. And if you read the Bible, I would also assume you're a flat earther. But in case you didn't read the Bible, let's go over some scriptures that confirm that the earth is not spinning, but it is a stationary circle. In 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 30, it says, "Fear before him, all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved." In Psalm chapter 104, verse 5, it says, "The earth has foundations." In Job chapter 9, verse 6, it says, "The earth has pillars." In 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8, it again says the earth has pillars. In Psalm chapter 93, verse 1, it says, "The earth is immovable and firm." In Psalm chapter 96, verse 10, it again says, "The earth is firm and immovable." In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, it says, "The earth is a circle." So there you have the Bible clearly saying that the earth does not spin and it is a circle. But for some reason, I have a feeling that some Christians will argue and tell me that a circle means a sphere. and that pillars and foundations are mistranslations. But for everyone else, please fact check these verses and let me know if I'm cherry picking or if I'm taking this out of context. Leave your comments below because I would like to know if the Bible really supports the round earth theory or the flat earth theory. Looking at this presentation, I know there are so much things I wanted to add, but there are so much other YouTubers that have dedicated channels to the flat earth theory. So I try to give my little spin on the topic while presenting new information. I'm here just to stir thought and get you thinking, not to convince you overnight. I recall the movie The Giver, and I look at myself kind of like Jonas, the receiver of memory. A difficult job not meant for the average person, but someone has to do it. Let's review some memories that debunk the round earth theory. In Paris on the 19th of July, 1750, a moon appeared visibly eclipsed while the sun was seen above the horizon. On September the 20th, 1717, and April the 20th, 1837, the moon appeared to rise eclipsed before the sun set. On December the 12th, 1928, George Hubert Wilkins demanded that science change the concept it has held for the past 400 years concerning the southern contour of our Earth. Although the extent of that southerly continuity was not penetrated, its estimated length of 5,000 miles indicated endless land continuity. No attempt were made to influence a change of popular concept as dictated by the reality disclosed, for the reality of that land beyond the South Pole holds eloquent refutation of the Copernican theorized mathematical limitation of the Earth. In the past, I would have shown dozens of pictures of the horizon, but it seems photographic evidence doesn't work. So that's why I'm giving you hard documented proof. There was a news story of an airplane flight coming from Taiwan to Los Angeles which had to do an emergency stop because a passenger was giving birth. Guess where they stopped? In Alaska, which doesn't make any sense on a globe, but it makes perfect sense on a flat earth. We can look at the flights from Brazil to South Africa, which stop in Senegal, and makes no sense on a globe, but makes perfect sense on a flat earth. And I know some skeptics will try to wiggle their way out of this one, and good luck, but as for me, I'm standing on my reality that the earth is flat. For those who disagree, no problem. I will gladly place these hard cold facts in your lap so you can scratch your head and attempt to defend your belief that the earth is a spinning ball of water. And I know there'll be some people that will say, okay, conspiracy dude, you made your point. You took damn near a week to make this long ass video. Alright, the earth is flat, now what? Well, my answer to that question is the flat earth gives hope to the oppressed people of the world. Now we know there is more unexplored land. Hopefully the ambitious explorers of the world can now put pressure on the 53 nations to dismantle the Antarctic Treaty so we can embark on discovering new land and possibly peaceful advanced civilizations waiting for us to break free from our colonial masters and cross the Antarctic to a place of paradise where there is true liberty and justice for all. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for watching this video to the end. I put a lot of work into this, so please be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And if you like the content that I make, please